Well, hi. It's been over a month, I think, now since my last movie. I notice a bit of glare in my face. I've tried to adjust for it. It's very bright outside, which is just behind the camera, and I think I'm getting lots of reflection back into my face. So if I've got a glow about me, it's apart from being a little bit natural, it's just the light playing tricks. Done a lot since my last video. I put the engine in. I'm going to take you for a walk around, but I just thought I'd better explain myself first. Thank you for joining me today. I've had a couple of requests to, you know, where am I sort of thing. So I thought I'd better get a video going. The aim of the whole what's been going on is to try and get the engine in and the systems fitted enough just to run the engine at the as it stands. So it's been a bit of a slow trek. I had a bit of damage to the rear end on the last video, which I might have shown. Well, I did show you, and I ordered the parts. This is going back in January, and I can't seem to get the guys to want to talk to me. I've sent them about 3 emails. So I'm asking you guys in Ballarat, you know, please, you know, send me my bits. So, and I was going to make video of that, thinking it might maybe take a week. Well, that's how I was told it would take a week. Now it's been going probably nearly just under 2 months. So when that comes in, then we've got a little bit of cutting and a little bit of fixing to do on the back end. So that's not been done. I fitted the engine, then I looked at filming the fit, but look, all of you know, 10 bolts and 4 hours to do it, which I could condense down into a 15-minute, 10-minute video, and I thought, you know, this is awfully boring, uninteresting, because the fit actually went very well. In other words, that you know, to position the engine, I had the gearbox off so that I just could take my own jolly good time at it, thinking that it would you know, probably take quite a while. But as it was, it went reasonably, even though it still took about 4 hours to do, and that's again without the gearbox. The gearbox came a few days later. Again, that's just so cramped in there. Yeah, I just can't get a camera in to show anything that's interesting. And again, it's about 8-9 bolts to do up. The alignment went reasonably well. So what I'm going to do is walk you through what I've got. It's a show and tell, if you like, and just where I'm at. And as I said, I really need to get it to a running position so that I can turn over the engine every few days and just look for any problems that I might have in that regard. I removed the radiator when I did that, and just to make sure that because I did it by myself, no assistance, and with the engine lifter alone. So I'll walk you through, you know, what I did there as well. I think the best thing is just to don't like sitting here talking about things so much. I'd much rather just up and into it. So let's take a walk around and have a look at, see what it is that I've done and where it is that I'm going with it. Okay. Alright, so I mean, there you can see it. It's all in, all looking lovely. Had a number of issues with the linkages. Okay, you can see going down through there and up into the throttle linkages and so on. Because I've got a high torque starter motor, I've had to do a little bit of trickery with the wiring, so that I had the original plus the new wiring that was required over the other side. And again, I've sort of changed the linkages where they would provide the least bit of problem in that regard. So yesterday I had problems with my fuel line, of course. I had a little short line that just went, that's the fuel line, of course, all there, going across into there, into both carbies. I had a line that just ended there, and I guess the previous owner must have had a rubber hose going from this flexible connection. Okay, that's all the flexible hose down there, straight from the fuel pump, and he must have had a flexible hose going from here to here. Now I noticed that in the breakdown views, this line is actually quite long, and so what I did was I ordered some heavy duty copper tubing. Okay, you can get thin wall, thick wall. The wall thickness on this is about 1.5, so it's 5/16 tube with a 8 mil if you like, with a 1.5 mil wall thickness, because the thin stuff is really, you know, it's about, you can get different things, 0.8, 0.6, but I got 1.5. Alright, so I've got the connections down there. I had to go and specially buy these connections as well. Okay, olive connections. This has all been under here, it's all been resoldered, okay, those joints, just to make sure. Then a little bit of brasso just to make it look pretty. I put a kick bend in because the engine mounts were inclined to want to interfere a little bit with it. I wanted it nice and clear from anything that might interfere, so I put a couple of kick bends in, and down to this olive connection that you can see, done nice and tight, because of you don't want anything going wrong with fuel lines cracking and so on. Okay, the engine mounts themselves, no issue. You know, the 4 8 bolts in here, 4 on this side, the 4 on that side, you can see 2 of them just there. Okay, and because I made this whole chassis from scratch, you know, I was just dreading putting the engine in, to see that these holes, which are at an angle, line up with the holes on the other side, you know, on the engine mount. And so I was a bit sweaty over that one, wondering whether they would line up, but as it was, they were perfectly aligned. And this is all to, you can see that bit of masking tape there, all aligned to the center line of the car. So that went quite well. You can see down on this side, you can see my high torque starter. Okay, and so the various connections I've got there. So I just pulled that out of the way. That's okay. So you can see there my various connections into my high voltage coil with electronic ignition into the distributor just there. So that was all pretty straightforward, and it's the one that you would have seen running when it was running back at the men's shed. Alright, so the engine went in fairly well. I took the radiator out. Okay, that's ready to go back in. And so the fuel line, the engine, and then the exhaust stack. Okay, so the exhaust system, you saw most of it was fitted when I had it fitted to the rotisserie. It's this one's stainless steel, and then I had problems with this bracket. There's a bracket here, okay, this bracket here, where on earth does that go? Okay, so I had to ring a mate from the Healey Club, Colin Rule, thank you very much, to try and explain to me. He's about a 1.5 hour drive away, so I wasn't in the mood for that, so I rang him, said, you know, you got anything on that, what to do, where it goes? And as you can see, it fits to the sump groove to the sump flange. Okay, just one of the screws there on that side. Nut hole's out steady, so it's got to be fitted to the, I thought it was fitted maybe to the chassis. And then that actually came up really well. I thought I'd have issues with that, but it just more or less just fell into place. And then the bracket, again, where I rang, and he gave me the answers to that, sent me a picture of what he had. I haven't bent that split pin yet because I'm just making sure that, you know, that I'm where I feel I should be with all the linkages, because it goes off at an angle to not interfere with this part of the tunnel. And also I've got my throttle switch, okay, which goes to this linkage that's just sitting here out of screen at the moment, just on the side there. Okay, so that's that. Then we move on inside. I managed to get, again I had to ring Colin, where are you getting your batteries? So 2x6 volt batteries, as you can see, and they're Century batteries, which is Australian made, and so I'm ready to fire up. I dropped a butterfly nut down below there somewhere, and it's on the ground, so that one's just got to wait. So the batteries were in, most of the wiring's connected there, so that's all, and it stays on trickle charge. I did ask the guy who sold the batteries at our Battery World, said, you know, keep it on trickle charge all the time when not in use, and so that's what I'm doing. Then down here I've fitted the gearbox. Again, I mean, it's fiddly, and but actually what you need to do is when you drop the engine just on its own, it has, and then throw in the bolts that, you know, at the front end there, the 8 bolts that you've got, there's a tendency for the engine to lean down. So you do need to support the engine so that you can get it free to put these 2 mounts in each side of this, the rear of the overdrive there. So you've got to have support on the sump, okay, just lift the engine up so that you can get clearance above here so that you can manipulate the engine mount into place. Alright, so again 8 or 9 bolts in there that you know, positions everything where it should. Remove the gear lever for that exercise, so that all went pretty well, okay, and I machined an alignment tool for the splines, and actually it again, I did it all on my own, and it went in fairly well. Then I discovered I'd made an error when I originally made these. Can you see that? There's a hole, elongated hole there, called an knob round, and of course when I had that turned in, I couldn't get that bolt to line up, so which told me that when I punched those holes that I was out by 10 mil. So I had to shift both of them over, and you can see that's my little error there. So for everything to line up, so I had to re-drill a new hole in that plate, which is about, I don't know, 2.5–3 mil plate there, to take the rear of the mount and to position everything. So putting those nuts in and that proved a little bit awkward, and I got a friend to help me put those in. While he did the top, I sort of climbed, reached in underneath, and did the nuts up. You know, I held the nut in place while he bolted it all in. So that went quite well as well, apart from the fact there that I was, stupid me, you know, did was out with a couple of holes, but that's it. Next thing to do, you can see off in the distance the clutch linkages. Okay, so I still need to connect that up, so I need to make an adjustment on that travel that travels up and down on those nuts there. So I just need to kink that over a little bit more so that I can get the clutch pedal to locate into that connection. The next thing is the this is an interesting one. So okay, so I bought, you can't get a handbrake handle for a BN1, so I got a BN2 handle. Okay, and then I thought, goodness me, what could possibly go wrong with that? And it went wrong. And so I've got my prop shaft, which I can connect up, but if I put this fellow in, this okay, that spigot that you see there hits the shaft. Okay, so in other words, on the BN2 handbrake, that shaft is much too long. It's about ½ an inch too long, because it interferes, and I can't get the prop shaft to line up with the holes on the back of the overdrive. So I had to remove that fellow. Now I've got to take that to the shed and shorten that by about ½ an inch. So that's a to do. I felt that was reasonably minor. But you know, pain in the ass that it wouldn't fit, because I hope I don't destroy the chrome work overly much, especially with the handle side, to get all that to fit. And then you can see in there how that all just sort of sits, so that's got to be redone. Then finally we went to the alignment of the steering wheel, and you can see there, if I can just maybe just drop that for a moment. You can see my instrument cluster. Over the last 2-3 weeks I was working with some instrument guys down in Melbourne way, Howard Instruments actually. They do the Lucas instruments, and I managed to get the water oil pressure gauge. They had that in stock, but the fuel one with the coil style fuel gauge, which is what that is, they didn't have any, and they weren't likely to get in. So he said, send your old ones, which were pretty grotty, and they're in about 8 pieces. But anyway, managed to find all the bits and pieces of the fuel gauge and send it down, and a couple of weeks later I got that back, as you can see, looking good. Really tickled pink. So I finalised my instrument panel, okay, and which I thought was looking very good. And then of course I was able to then put that in place. It isn't fully mounted, just the 2 ends are mounted. So and then to align the steering wheel with the middle, and as you know, that dashboard I made by hand, going back in earlier videos, and so it's actually looking quite good. I was really pleased with that. So dashboard in, wheel in, and steering wheel lined up, basically central in that cutout that you can see there, and so that's ready to go. Okay, so what's left? So as I said, I want to get this engine running. I've got the fuel system ready to go. I've got the engine mounted and steady in place and all aligned fairly well. So my next step is, as I said, I'd like to get it to be a running engine, so at least something on the thing is working. Then, and look over there, a bunch of wires. So I haven't wired anything into the back of the instrument cluster yet, which is still needs doing. And then I think I should be ready to at least get the engine running. Okay, that takes us back to the rear end. There's my radiator and the gearbox cowling, and my damaged hoop it is, okay, which needs, I need to replace that, and that's, I've been waiting for that and hoping to film for that, but of course 3 emails and still nothing. So fuel tank ready to go, all the fuel systems ready to go, but because I wanted to do some welding here, I didn't want to be too close to the fuel tank. That might then start containing fuel, so not sure what to do there yet. Okay, so that's about it. So the only reason I removed that wheel was because of I just wanted some free access to lean over the engine to make sure that everything was all right there. I think that's about it. So that's what's been happening over, well, the month that plus a little bit of since my last video. The original wheels, of course, aren't staying, but they're just while I get the outer panels on. And you've seen in previous videos my new spoke wheels, which are stainless steel spokes on chrome rim. And so come close to the time, I'll put on the new wheels. So the outer panels then all need to get fitted, and let's hope that you know, that doesn't present too many issues. I have had it assembled, but I'm a little bit concerned about the height of the engine, you know, whether it all comes nicely over and doesn't interfere with the engine. You know, again, when you're building this and you don't have a lot to work with regards measurements, and not like the fellows at Kill Martins who seem to have a jig for everything. That's the best I could come up with. So, okay, so yesterday finished, and the reason I've got such a shine, a bit of brasso on that. Brasso is copper brass polish, and then I sprayed that with a clear lacquer just to try and keep the shine so that people can say, ooh, ah. Okay, that's about it. I actually got some, I didn't like the little connections here. I actually had the wires going straight into there and then doing up the screws, and it was just crushing the wire. I never did like that, so I actually got some what I call bootlace connectors and scrunched them over the ends of the wire and then used that. So that, and it was a fairly cheap system of doing that. So that's about it there. I think that's it. Not sure what to do about my return spring for my throttle, how to fit that and make it work properly. So there's just a couple little fiddly things I'm just not sure you know, what I need to do. So that's it, guys. I might call that a wrap. Okay, and again down that side, and you can see the tight space I'm working in. It's just a small home garage, well, double garage, and it's a bloody tight squeeze. to do anything. Alright, oh okay, yeah, just one other final thing. I had to get the engine mount lifter through, you know, the wheels to come underneath. That's right, that's why I had to remove that wheel, just so that the engine lifter could wheel in underneath. Now then I found that the wheels were interfering with the chassis, okay, right down there, and so I had to, you can see the blocks down there, so the front end is actually sitting off the ground a couple of inches on blocks, and that's so that I could get the engine lifter underneath and lean right over the top so that I could align the engine essentially so that it comes straight down over the where the engine mounts were. So that was a problem. So coming along slowly but surely, and you can see I've only just got the thermostat line through that wall, firewall, and that's sort of getting ready to be mounted as well when I put the rear radiator back. Okay, I'll call that quits. Thanks very much. Okay.